Oregon versus Washington did not disappoint. The Michael Penix versus Bo Nix game, it was incredible. Honestly, I thought this one was over, and then the Washington and Michael Penix magic sparked. It was 33-29 Oregon, and then Oregon had a really nice drive, and with about 2 minutes left, they went for it on 4th and 3 and were stopped. Now, I know there's going to be a lot of talk of Dan Lanning's decision to go for it there, and honestly, I did like the decision to go for it. Now, the play call I didn't love. Going out with a rollout there just seemed a little dumb, but in hindsight, obviously it didn't work out, and Washington, wow. On the very next play, Michael Penix hit Jalen Polk for 35 yards. Then the play right after that, Penix hit Rome Odunze for an 18-yard touchdown, and I gotta ask, was that Michael Penix's Heisman moment? It might have been. We might be looking back in a couple months on that moment. Now, the game wasn't over yet. Oregon got the ball down all the way to the Washington 25, and then on the final play, they missed a 43-yard field goal. Now, this was an incredible game. It was close the whole way, 22-18 Washington at the half, and then Washington actually went up 29-18, and then Oregon scored 15 straight. Of course, Washington went on to win, and Michael Penix played really well on the bright stage. 22 of 37, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns, and he did throw an interception as well. Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk, they both had over 100 yards and scored 3 combined touchdowns. Plus, I gotta at least bring up the fact that Dylan Johnson rushed for 100 yards and a touchdown. Now, this was a close game, and Oregon's top dudes played super well too. Bo Nix, 33 of 44, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Troy Franklin, who is an absolute freak wide receiver, he had 150 yards and a touchdown. And then Bucky Irving had 127 and a touchdown on the ground. Now, all 3 of those guys are going to be drafted in April, plus edge rusher Brandon Dorlus. Oregon has some really good dudes, and Washington is also going to be very busy at the 2024 NFL Draft. And of course, there is no name bigger than Michael Penix. Penix has been incredible again this season. 2,300 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and I'll tell you what, he's showing some flashes of some serious NFL talent. Some of these throws look like NFL throws. His favorite play to me was his touchdown pass to Jalen Polk late in the first quarter. I don't think he could have put this ball in a better spot. This is just a thing of beauty. We're sitting there watching the game, and me and Darren are like, oh my goodness, what a throw. This Penix dude, he can sling it. He's probably going to be a first rounder, but his story is maybe the best part. Penix was incredible last season. He went 11-2 at Washington, and what was Kalen DeBoer's first season as the head coach. Penix ended up with 4,600 yards, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He also rushed for 4 touchdowns. Now, he is already 23, and he's actually in his 6th year of college. He was at Indiana for 4 years, but he never played more than 6 games in a season. He had a torn ACL in 2018 and 2020. He had a shoulder injury in 2019 and 2021. He played in just 6 games twice. I'm so glad he's been able to stay healthy at Washington. He's electric, he's one hell of a player, and I can't wait to watch him in the pros. Now, in all, Washington might end up with 3 first-rounders, including Michael Penix. Braylon Trice is an edge rusher, and he should go day 1. If I had to guess, probably a late first-rounder from what I've seen in some mocks. Now, he is technically a 5th-year senior, but he didn't play at all in 2019 or 2020. He had 9 sacks last season and was first-team All-Pac-12. Now, to the more exciting part of Washington, and I will say, if you don't know the Washington wide receivers, learn them. You're gonna hear their names again in April. Rome Odunze is the big one. He's probably gonna be a late first rounder. He had 1,145 yards last season. That was the most in the Pac-12, and he had 7 touchdowns on 75 receptions. Already this season, he has 736 yards and 6 touchdowns. This is a guy that is in the running for the Biletnikoff Award, and he is so good. In other wide receiver classes, I think this could be a top guy. Now, of course, this year is insane. You got the 2 Ohio State kids. You have guys like Xavier Worthy, even Troy Franklin, who we brought up earlier. There are so many good wideouts in this class, and Rome Odunze is right there with them. Now, Washington also has 2 other wide receivers that should go day 2 of the draft, draft probably second or third rounders. Jalen Polk's one that I've already brought up a couple times. Beautiful pass. Last season, he had 700 yards and 41 receptions. Both were actually third on the team. Already this season, he has 586 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's been great. Now, his story's a little confusing. Technically speaking, he was a freshman last season. He started his career at Texas Tech, but that COVID 2020 season didn't count. Then he transferred and only played in 3 games in 2021 because of injury. Finally, we have Jalen McMillan, who did not play much against Oregon. Unfortunately, he's been dealing with a leg injury, and I think he got hurt only a few snaps in, so we haven't seen much of him recently. But last year, he was an all Pac-12 honorable mention. He's been at Washington, started there in 2020, and last year, he had 1,098 yards and 79 receptions. He was really, really good. Finally, Troy Fautanu should also be a day 2 pick. He's an offensive tackle. I know, not that sexy, not very flashy, but he's going to be really good. He's going to really help out some NFL team in a year. He's in his 5th season at Washington and was 2nd team all Pac-12 last season. Now, it's no secret if you've watched Washington play, but this team has some dudes. They are incredible. They're going to have a lot of guys drafted this upcoming year. This is a team that could legitimately make the college football playoff, but there still were a lot of questions, not just around Michael Penix and what his future may look like, but just with Washington in general. And this game really was their first test of the year. Everyone they've played so far this season, they've beaten pretty good, except for Arizona, who they did only beat by 7, but none of those teams were very good. Now, all of a sudden, you're going up against Oregon, who's number 8. They have another guy that could potentially win the Heisman in Bo Nix. It was a big moment on the big stage, and they lived up to it. Now they get Arizona State and Stanford back-to-back. They're both pretty ass, but then the schedule ramps up, and it's going to be rough to end the regular season. Here are their final 4 games. Number 10 USC, number 16 Utah, number 15 Oregon State, and number 19 Washington State. That is going to be an absolute gauntlet to end the year. It is not going to be easy for Washington. That is 5 ranked games. The good news is, at least by rankings, Oregon was the highest. You already beat Oregon. I think they could beat those 4, but you have to imagine a slip-up's going to come somewhere. But if it doesn't, and they make it out alive, I'm telling you right now, they're going to be in the college football playoff. Michael Penix is probably going to win the Heisman, and this Washington team is going to be talked about everywhere. They just need Michael Penix to keep playing well, and this really could be a magical season for the Huskies, and who knows, maybe we've already seen Michael Penix Heisman moment.